Namaste. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. I'm your host Sehereen, and this is where we welcome women healers and spiritual leaders from all around the world to come and share their journeys and their experiences. Thank you so much, everyone, for showing lots of love to our podcast episodes. And if you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe to this channel so we can continue spreading some love. Thank you. Hi, Devin. Namaste. Welcome to Sipping on Stories podcast. I am very happy to have you today. First of all, tell us what beverage of choice have you got for us today and where you're joining us from as well.
Awesome. Tonight I am joining you from Missouri in the United States, and I have a sweet cinnamon and echinacea tea because I'm fighting many symptoms from something. I'm not sure what.
Right. We can talk about that in a bit, but cheers and welcome. What do you love about the place you're in?
Ooh, I have grown up in the Midwest, and I've been a lot of really amazing, cool places, and it's super cliche, but I do like the weather and the
Mhm.
changes and the unpredictability of it almost. It can be annoying, and I'm not a big fan of like snow or driving in like not good weather, but I like the variety and I like the visual representation of the seasons because I think that's really important. And I've actually incorporated that a lot into my life recently of like living in tune with the seasons and recognizing that there are changes that happen in our life and cycles that we go through.
Oh, that's interesting. And I think first I'm kind of hearing that. So how do you kind of do that? If you can tell us a little
So
more about it.
sure. So yeah, being a woman, one of the things that we go through is like a monthly cycle, and that cycle emulates like the four natural seasons. So that's one way that I connect those seasons where in each part of our cycle we emulate like spring, summer, fall, and autumn, or fall and winter.
Yeah.
And so there are different elements to each of these seasons that we can embody during those times, but then also during the time that it's actually happening in terms of like the year-long seasons where winter is a time of rest and recuperation, and it's a time of death and honoring that within ourselves and not trying to force or be something that we're not, which is why like I don't celebrate the new year on January 1st. I don't celebrate in terms of that anymore because of the seasons. We're not really in a place that we can celebrate new life because new life hasn't happened yet. We're still in like the midst of death and understanding what is not coming with us on the next cycle of the journey.
Mhm. It's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I have never kind of heard that before or kind of taken that perspective. And as you were kind of talking about it, it still made, sense that during winters you just don't want to do much. You just want to be cuddled up in your blanket, and sometimes we kind of feel guilty about it. I guess
Mhm.
going with the nature has something to it. So amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. I guess today we're here, Devin, to kind of talk about, your journey really. And if you can share, what first drew you to your journey as a medium and healer, and was there any pivotal experiences or realizations that, deepened your connection with spirit?
Of course. Yeah. So there are there's one big moment I think that really accelerated my journey, but then looking back, saw and understood that my whole life has been preparing me for this spiritual awakening journey, this transition into this spiritual lifestyle. I've always been drawn to those types of things. I've always been interested in yoga and meditation and tarot and witchcraft and crystals, and I've always been interested in those things and never really dove deep until the year 2020
Mm,
when everything kind of exploded and there was a lot of things that were uncertain.
mm,
And in a short span of time, I graduated from college with two degrees that I realized I did not want and like a job in long term. I did not see myself being happy or fulfilled in those terms. I lost my apartment. I ended a toxic relationship, and I had gone down to one job, an internship that I lost at the same time.
oh my.
Yeah.
I mean, a bit of a roller coaster there. Oh, okay. Yeah. And I find it very interesting. So I have spoken to so many guests, and every time they have kind of connected to their own soul or God inwards, or connected to the spirit, connected to the other side. There's always this drama, this craziness has happened. Some kind of incident has taken place that has kind of pushed them into it. So this is really interesting. The more people I talk to, it kind of the same things come up again and again. It makes me think sometimes like it's really interesting the way universe works. All right.
Yeah, and it's just kind of how change works. So
Hmm.
it's hard for people to make big changes in their life without something behind it, like a catalyst behind it. So for some people, it's like a weight scare or like a health emergency or like them losing their jobs or the death of somebody important to them. There are these big moments in our life that kind of make us look and be like, oh, wait a second, I don't want to be where I am right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many incidents in my life as well that kind of where I was taken aback or like, oh, this is the end of life. But it was actually a good change. And
Mhm.
when I reflect back and I'm like, I'm so grateful for that episode, that incident that took place in my life, or else I
Yeah.
wouldn't be where I am now. So as my sister always says, like when I lost my job, for example, she's like, it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. And I know now I know why it is. So makes sense.
Oh
And
yeah, that series of events was the best thing that ever happened to me.
yeah, I can't help but notice we have a little furry friend next to you, and I can see his ears. Baby cat. Oh, so cute. All right. We're gonna ask some questions to baby cat as well and share his
He likes
experiences.
he likes to join me in these spaces. I've noticed he definitely um, pops in, especially when I'm doing like meditations or energy healings. He is
Mhm.
my protector for sure, my
And
energetic protector.
yeah, and animals and cats, I have two cats and I can tell they're so in tune with everything that happens. They feel everything around you. That's the best thing. Amazing. Awesome. And I think moving on, I have some questions on, of course, the kind of divine work that you're doing and helping people. So give us a little kind of insight on what you do and what it is kind of, what is that led you, what you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, so when all of that happened back in 2020, I realized that like this life that I had envisioned for myself is not what I wanted anymore. And I was starting at this brand new spot. And I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to be a coach, that I wanted to be a guide for people going through their spiritual awakenings. And it's expanded a little bit since then. It's expanded more to a more general spiritual coach where I love and am super interested and fascinated with working with people going through awakenings. But there's also this natural transformation that people go through in the spiritual space that
Mhm.
you might not necessarily be going through like the original awakening part of it, but that it's a similar timeline. So now I've expanded who I work with in terms of like ideal clients in
Yeah.
that way, because
Mhm.
there's a lot of parallels that I've noticed and people
Yeah.
in my community and space that already kind of have gone through their awakening but still need guidance in their
Mhm.
spiritual lives.
Yeah. And for those who are feeling stuck, what you might call as a spiritual limbo. So what
Mhm.
advice or practices would you recommend to kind of reconnect, back to their inner power or to their higher self?
Mhm. That's what I really love actually about spirituality is that it's so open. There are so many things that are available to you in terms of practices and things that you can connect with. So for those people, I'd really encourage them to look within themselves. If there was anything that felt super, that they were super drawn to or was super important to them, for me, it was meditation
Mm,
and journaling and grounding.
mm,
I practiced with cards for a while, but there are so many different things that you can do, and it's really, really important that you find the things that are important to you
mm.
specifically.
That's interesting. Yeah, and grounding as well. And I know a lot of guests I've spoken to who are on this path, they kind of reiterate and kind of stress over how important grounding is. And I would like to understand what your perspective is on that end.
Sure, yeah. The way that I see it is that like a grounding practice, it's not going to change your situation, right? It's not going to change the external things that you're going through. What it does instead is change your state. It changes like who you are in that moment so that you can look at and assess the situation differently, decide how to move, take certain actions, like understand maybe where something is coming from. And really, it's a tool to help with your emotions as well, because that's often the thing that knocks us down and is hard to overcome when we're facing something that's difficult.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And you have worked with so many people or individuals on their development, their development journeys, right? And helping them, coaching them. So what are some of the most common blocks that you come across, and how do you help them kind of navigate through it?
Yeah, so a common one that I've been seeing lately in my community is this connection to self. That
Mm,
we've lost this like individuality within us, or that we identify with something for so long that it just doesn't resonate anymore. And it's really, really hard to let some of those things go. So that's a really common one of like breaking down a current identity or something that just isn't who you are anymore, and then reconnecting with something that feels more like you, or connecting with that version, this newer version of you. And so
mm,
that's like my purpose for everybody that I work with is connecting with this next level version of yourself so that
mm.
you can move forward and achieve the goals that you want in this life.
Yeah, right, very interesting. And in terms of kind of, blocks when we talk about they're not only like spiritual blocks, right? They're also the physical ones, like the emotional, and it could be that it's coming through maybe relationships and or other things. Is that right? So you kind of help
Yes.
people navigate through that as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's different circumstances that like it's not just identity it might be that you need to let go of, but certain relationships or things need to be redefined, or maybe you're in a living situation that's not ideal that like you need to get out of there so that you can be in a better environment for yourself, or create
Yeah,
a sacred space for you, or create boundaries with certain people. So those are all things that I help with.
yeah, it's so interesting. Anything shocking that you've come across in your experience that you would like to share?
Ooh,
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. That's a good one. That's a stumper. Okay, let me think.
That's fine.
Shocking.
Yeah. Yeah, something kind of just threw you out of your chair, maybe. Or because sometimes when I kind of meet so many people, of course, I've had experiences of my own, but that's only limited to what you kind of feel. And then you hear someone saying another experience that they're sharing. But there's so many experiences out there that you could have never imagined, like, oh my God, this thing kind of, this kind of thing even existed, or I don't know. So something that's been kind of very shocking because I have come across that in my personal life so many times. So that's why I kind of ask people, because I feel if I do not ask, I kind of miss out on a great story. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
I feel like I can honestly say there isn't much that surprises me. So
mm,
I've shifted into this mindset that like anything is possible. And because I believe that, like anything is possible. Like somebody could tell me the most outlandish thing ever that has happened to them or that they've experienced to be like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. No, I get that. I could see how that would happen.
yeah, yeah, interesting. And when you are like, going through your meditation practices, and do you kind of find yourself where the spirit is trying to connect with you, or the kind of messages you get from the other side um, as well? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
about it.
yeah, meditation specifically, I recently started this new practice, I guess like not super new, but newer in the terms of like I've practiced meditation for a long time and I always kind of felt like I wasn't super great at it until I came across this method that I'm now certified in guiding people through. And it's designed to work with your brainwave states and like drop you deep into meditation very quickly. And you get into this state of being that it's like you're aware that you're there, but
Mm,
you are in a different space. And so that's what I really use meditation for. And I get I do get things downloaded, but it's typically it comes in a way that is hard to describe because it's not similar in terms of a lot of people's perspectives or how they experience things.
Yeah.
So I am not really a visual person, and between all of the clear abilities that people have, I resonate most with claircognizance, which is clear knowing. So it's
Mm,
really hard to describe to somebody that I know something looks a certain way without needing to see it. I don't necessarily physically visualize it, but I know that it's a certain way. And I
mm,
can feel into like vibes. Well, it feels like this, and that looks like this, and it operates in this way without physically seeing or hearing it.
mm.
So
Yeah.
that I would say is the most common way I get those messages, especially in terms of meditation. But I also get, random little things, repeating numbers from the universe is a big one of just like a little hello or a connection point. A huge one, the biggest one for me is that when somebody says something that really deeply resonates with me, I get full body chills. And I get that like multiple times a day. Like it's something that's very common for me and a very like clear sign that I'm resonating or connecting with something.
Mm. Wow, very interesting. All
Yeah.
right. And the kind of meditation practice that you mentioned, the new technique, right? And people tend to, try and meditate, but they kind of fail because it takes years and years of practice to even feel a sense of that you have had you were in a deeper meditation state, right? So does it also help people who are getting started into meditation and then they're not able to focus?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So this is physically designed to alter your brainwave states. It's something to like drop you deep in without you necessarily needing to think about it or focus or it's very specifically guided in that way. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. I should definitely check it out. Okay. Great. And how do you kind of, encourage people to kind of discern their true purpose or path, especially when they are, struggling with self-doubt, or fear, or they, a fear of actually embracing their spiritual gifts?
Yeah. It's something that it comes with a deep self-trust. So that's definitely part of that journey is connecting back with yourself and your own vision and really going into, well, what do I want? Because that question, I think a lot of people don't sit down and think about. It's not something that's common for people.
Yeah.
It's we focus on a lot of external things instead of asking ourselves those questions like, who am I? What do I want? What is my vision? Like, what does that mean? Defining certain things and really just asking those questions and digging when you don't find the answers, and then realizing that one day it might be different than another day and understanding those patterns within yourself.
Mhm. Okay. Right. And in your experience, what does it look like when someone truly embodies their next self, next level self? And what changes in the energy or mindset or even a relationship or even the relationship with the world? So what does it like look like?
Yeah. So when you're coming from this place of embodiment or authenticity, people tend to show up brighter, right? You
Mm,
might see me and like, um, it could be described as like some people can see it in like an auric field, right? You can
mm,
physically see that that person is brighter, but it can also be this magnetism. That's another one that's really big that I've noticed in my life where you might be drawn to certain people or drawn to certain spaces, or people might be drawn to you, right? There's a lot of people that come to me and open up to me because I have this aura of safety and
mm,
trust and that I will listen to them. I can be an empathetic listener and so it's like almost this magnetism that you might not necessarily be drawn to on like an everyday basis. So it could also be like little things, like certain books or podcasts, or, ooh, I've been interested in this, but now I feel this like pull to do this thing.
yeah.
So when you're tapped in and embodying that version, you definitely get more of that, and it's more obvious, the clear path that you are taking.
Mm, yeah. And in my experience, I find that people are generally happier, they're following the soul purpose, and there's something about them that that they're kind of floating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they appear like, ooh, I want to be part of that. I want to be connected to that. I want to have a
yeah,
conversation with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they can go so deeper as well. You can have such good conversations, deeper conversations, and it's not superficial, because they really feel connected to the higher self, to the source. I don't know what you would call it, but yeah, yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Um,
And they've gone deeper physically. Like they've been able
yeah,
to go and dive deep into themselves. Like people can only go as deep as they've gone themselves.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if there are any your stories that you would like to share about your clients' journeys or experiences, because I feel like sometimes there are a lot of things in this, in our experience that we go through, and someone would not be aware. And that's what this whole podcast is about, like bringing amazing women like yourself from different parts of the world to kind of share their journey, share their experiences, because someone might need to hear it. Someone is like, oh my God, I did not know such thing existed. Or maybe I'm not feeling alone anymore. Or, it's just the kind of a sense that I want to give my listeners is that you're not alone. And this is what you can do to kind of, this is the direction you need to maybe go and follow if you're feeling the same way. And if there are amazing people like yourself who are there to guide them. So that's really the purpose. So I would love for you to share any of your client stories or journeys today, of course, with permission, that you would, love to share on this podcast.
Yeah. Probably without going into any specifics, I've noticed that obviously everybody's journey is going to be so uniquely different. So there are certain things that may surprise or, work for some people that don't work for other people. So it's all about finding, that thing that works for each person. But I have noticed that, I mean, across the board, people have unique experiences with me. And that's because a lot of the focus that I put on with working people is their uniqueness, right? There's no cookie cutter way that's going to work for everybody. So we're going to look for and understand like what it is that you really want, what it is that you really need. So in healing sessions, for example, I don't
Mm,
really run all healing sessions the same way. There are certain things that I might include for one person that I don't include for another, and those are a combination of like requests and things specifically that a client has told me. And then there are also intuitive pulls, right? There are things that I'm like, ooh, okay, instead of asking their guides at the end for communication, I feel like there's something else here in their energy that I'm missing right now. I'm going to ask their guides now if there's anything that I need to work on
yeah,
that I'm not picking up myself. And so changing the structure of that based on the person is really, really important to me.
yeah, okay. And what sort of healing modalities do you kind of bring in as you work with your clients?
Yeah, I am certified in breath of life energy healing. So that is the modality of healing that I use. And it is the premise that you are connecting to the prana and the energy around you from the sun, from the ground, from the air, and pulling that
Mhm.
through the body and just being a conduit into that person.
Wow.
So I set up a chakra system. I
Mm,
have a specific set of crystals that I use to emulate that on a person and then go in and connecting with that and go in and read their energy and feel where they need work done. And maybe they have chakras that are depleted or ones that are overactive that need adjusting just so that they're in
mm,
harmony and balance. But then also looking in the auric field and seeing if there are any parts of their body. So this is something that I use on myself a lot when I'm not feeling well. So if there's something physically in my body that needs to be moved, I will conduct an energy healing session on myself in order to shift that energy and shift that state.
mm. Yeah, very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. And because you were kind of talking about crystals, and you said that you were had keen interest in crystals. So what is maybe you think top two or top three crystals everyone should have, and why?
Okay, well, I'm going to be really basic because quartz is kind of the like universal, everybody can connect with this. It's kind of it it's gonna expand on any energy that you place with it, right? So if you put two crystals together, one crystal and quartz, the quartz is going to amplify everything.
Mm.
So it's just kind of a good universal thing that you can use. It's got a wide variety and you can kind of set different intentions with it. Amethyst is another one that I've just always been very, very connected with. It's very good for grounding. It's very good for connecting with your higher self. Another one of my favorite that was it was given to me in terms of like a crystal reading. I had somebody tell me what was a good crystal for me specifically, and that one
Yeah.
is rainbow moonstone. And that one is very, very, I don't know, special to me. I would like to see everybody use it a little bit more. I wouldn't say more unique. It's not, I wouldn't say super rare or anything, but I think it's one that people don't necessarily know or connect with as much. But it's pretty cool.
Amazing. Yeah, I've went into a little collecting crystal kind of phase myself. So at that time, I kind of gathered a lot of information about it and how it kind of will help you heal with different kind of elements, in your body. So I think it's amazing. It's amazing what the nature, the universe has for you in store, right? As tools to kind of work with. So I always kind of
I don't know
get fascinated
if you
with it.
can see. So this is my crystal shelf.
Yeah, I was not sure what it was, and I thought I'll ask you later, but
Yeah. I'm not sure that it'll come into focus, but it's an old like typography shelf, I believe is what it's called. So it's got a whole bunch of different compartments that are different sizes in order to hold different tools, and like the big wooden cabinets, old school style cabinets. And so
yeah,
it's hung vertically, yeah, to hold
love it,
different shapes and sizes.
love it,
Yeah.
love it, love
Yeah.
it, love it. Awesome. And you talked about intuition as well as you were, kind of sharing your experience with your clients. And what role does intuition play in your work? And how do you kind of guide others to trust and amplify their own intuitive abilities?
Yeah. So I think it's very, very important because you know yourself the best. You know yourself better than anybody else could possibly know you. So, in
Yeah.
order to be able to tap into yourself, like you can then make those decisions based on yourself, based on your health, based on how your emotions are doing, based on your past experiences. Like, no matter how much you tell somebody else, nobody will ever know you as well as you know yourself because you've experienced all those things physically, emotionally, your innermost thoughts, your patterns. Like nobody can really understand the depths of that
Mm,
ever that you can with yourself. So
mm,
it's very important to be able to like connect with that.
yeah.
And I'd say that that's a main way that I operate in
Yep.
like a daily life instead of necessarily listening to what society is saying or what like a medical study says. Yes, just knowing that, okay, this might work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. So knowing yourself is really, really important.
Absolutely. And I cannot agree more. And I feel like everyone should kind of work and practice on increasing the awareness or increasing the intuition power because it's never wrong. It's always gentle. It's never gonna give you direction where it's gonna be harmful or bad or negative. And and you would agree that every person, every human has some level of intuition. It's always there. It's about how well you sharpen it every day and
Yes.
how well you work on it, right? And one of my this lady, a woman I looked up to in the past, and I just admire her. And she told me how to work with intuition once, and she said, wake up one morning and just think of, ask yourself, am I going to drive to work or am I going to catch the train to work and see what the subtle voice inside you tells you. So
Mhm.
when you can practice on little things, when the bigger things come along, your intuition is just going to flow in. And that resonated with me so much. And I try to practice that every day mindfully. And even for my podcast, I go like, oh, what do I wear today? And then I'm like, do I get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? And Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And I think I've told this many times on my podcast, and I love that so much that I kind of cannot stop talking about it. So,
Yeah. I
my
mean,
listeners,
it was a pivotal point for you, right? It was
yeah.
something that changed your perspective. It changed the trajectory of the path that you were going down. Your life would have been much different if you hadn't,
Mm,
resonated with that piece of advice.
exactly. Awesome. And you talked about spiritual awakening as well. So for you, what is spiritual awakening?
So the spiritual awakening, it manifests in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So it's one of those things that's really hard to pinpoint or define because people's journey can look so different.
Mm,
But I would say the thing that I resonate or identify with the most that is common across awakening is coming to this consciousness and awareness of certain things in your life, whether it be your health, your politics, your lifestyle, your job, the things that you're doing for fun. I mean, these are things that we might do on autopilot.
mm,
And so it's bringing those things out of autopilot and being conscious and aware of these decisions that you're making.
mm. All right. And you talked about how some people who have gone through, or they're going through spiritual awakening, or they've already had a spiritual awakening, but they're still unable to kind of navigate through what's happening because it does bring up a lot of inner turmoil. So as they are going through that awakening, right? So how do you help them to kind of, navigate that turbulence without losing the sight of their potential growth? So what are, some of the kind of top tips or kind of tricks you would give us, or top tips for people who are, or our listeners today who are listening to this, who might be going through the same experience? What are some of the things you would maybe possibly suggest or recommend?
Yeah, so that's kind of where the spiritual part of spiritual awakening comes in, as I talk about and utilize a lot of these tools, spiritual tools, in order to navigate these difficult experiences. And that's where I think the overlap comes in of like the people who I work with and the people who are my people, right? The people in my community, the people who resonate with me the most is the combination of those two things, right? Like connecting with something spiritual, something bigger than themselves. Um, and it could be religion or it could not be. It could be something, completely different. Spirituality leaves a lot of room
Mm,
for interpretation and for our own definition. And that's what I really love about those things. So then it's not only having one or two specific tools, but actually finding the tools that work with you specifically and not using this cookie cutter, like I mentioned, like, oh, I'm just going to teach everybody how to journal and meditate. No, we're going to go through and uncover these things that are important to you. So maybe meditation is not important to you and it's not something you've ever resonated with, but breath work is really, really exciting for you, or grounding,
mm,
pulling tarot cards. I had a friend that was her spiritual awakening. That's the thing that got her through that is she practiced tarot and she journaled. And those were her two things that just got her through the depths of everything that she was going through.
yeah, yeah, fascinating. Um, and when someone's actually having a spiritual awakening, in your experience, what are some of the signs that they need to look out for that sometimes people might not even be aware that they're actually awakening spiritually? So, what are some of the signs they need to look out for?
I'd say one of the biggest ones that is the most like um scary to experience is this feeling of going crazy. Like, am I crazy? Like, I'm seeing things that like nobody else is seeing, and that might be like physically, right? Your gifts might be awakening, and you are
Yeah.
physically starting to see things that other people are not seeing, or it
Mm,
could be patterns, or conspiracies, or like truth that you just didn't notice before that you're all of a sudden noticing now. That can be
mm,
really overwhelming for people. Another one is like alienation, right? You're feeling like, oh, I don't connect with the same people that I'm connecting with anymore. I don't feel like supported when I go out with my friends. I don't feel like I can have conversations with my family because I don't understand what I'm going through.
mm,
Some of the more minor ones that I've noticed is like changes in appetite. changes in like appearance. You know, you might notice that eating habits are different. There are a number of things. Um, I can't think of any other ones.
That's okay. I think we've got plenty. I guess it does make sense, especially, you know, because you start you kind of suddenly start feeling and seeing things that are not mainstream anymore. And the other point that you mentioned is you can't connect with the same people anymore because they can't understand what you're going through or even resonate with what's happening with you. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Amazing. It was such a good kind of chat, Devin. I think you've kind of also opened up my eyes to a lot of things today, and I've learned a lot from you too. So thank you for sharing your wisdom today with us. But unfortunately, we have come to an end to this episode, so we'll have to wrap. But before we go away, if there is anything that you would like to leave our listeners with today, or even perhaps your favorite book, you can make any recommendations or your favorite quote. Go for it.
Mhm. What was the last thing you said? My favorite
Or
one.
yeah, your favorite quote maybe, or your favorite book. Anything that you would like to leave our listeners with.
Let's see. I would say like the biggest thing in my life right now, the biggest thing that I think everybody needs to be connecting with is there's this power within yourself. There's always choice in your life. So I mean, there's always opportunity to wake up and be different. So just making sure that you're understanding this responsibility that also comes with that of like you are the creator of your own life and
Mm,
you've created this life that has gotten you this far. So whether you like the life that you have or you don't, you're the one that created it, which means that you can now go out and create something new. If you don't like what you're in or you want something different, you have that capability and power to do that in your life.
amazing. Thank you for that. Beautiful, beautiful words. Thank you so much. And I guess
Welcome.
with that, Devin, we'll end this podcast episode. So thank you again so much for coming on Sipping on Stories. I'm very grateful for you, for your time, for your work. With that, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.